Welcome, everyone. Let's start with a brief survey of the ways that people tend to defraud or rob credit unions. The first, obviously, is physical attack. Those things are fairly well secured. More recently in history, online attacks have become possible. The technology industry has adapted, and so online is increasingly secured. The last way that you could attack a credit union would be through the phone channel. Call up the call center, social engineer a call center agent into giving you information that would let you access the account, maybe transfer some funds. There are a number of phone vulnerabilities. The member service representatives are your first and maybe your only line of defense on the phone channel. We as humans tend to be easily manipulated, and fraudsters put this to good use, social engineering these folks. Knowledge-based authentication is the primary form of protection on the call center. We all get asked mother's maiden name, last four of social. A lot of that information we willingly volunteer online through social media, and the black markets are thriving. Caller ID, or Annie, used to be a reasonable way of knowing who you were dealing with on the other end of the phone, but even that's no longer reliable. Spoofing has become easy and cheap. We do see some adopting voice biometrics as a form of authentication. It's not widely deployed because of the complexity, particularly around enrollment. It is subject to attacks through voice distortion, voice spoofing. Credit union members are more likely than bank customers to use their credit union as a one-stop shop. Deposit checking, credit, mortgage, etc. What this means is that when the fraudster attacks a credit union, the extent of their exploit will be much larger. The fraudsters attack elderly populations in particular. In the credit union membership, that tends to be a higher average age. The average age of a credit union member is north of 50, while bank customers average closer to mid-40s. Credit unions may have fewer resources to devote to fraud prevention. Thieves have figured this out. Many are choosing to target credit unions because they believe the fraud response will be slower. 2014, we saw that about 1 in every 2,900 calls was a fraud attack. And in 2015, that number has jumped up by 30%. There are essentially 4 steps to a phone-based attack. The first is reconnaissance. They proceed to take over the account. They work to evade detection and actually steal money from the account. Let's look at each of these in a little more detail. In terms of reconnaissance, one of the primary goals here would be to identify members and the institutions at which they have accounts. They will work to collect answers to knowledge-based authentication questions, and then once they have access to the account, they generally try to determine the account value and decide how to proceed. And frequently, they proceed to an account takeover. They attempt to dissociate the member from the account, change the contact information so that it points to their email, their controlled phone number. Once they have control of the account, then they want to make sure that when they go to take money, that they are not detected. We see them frequently set travel notifications. If there are verification call-outs that you make, they may work to intercept those verification calls. And then finally, of course, they take the money. They may do this through a wire transfer, through an ACH transfer. They may counterfeit an ATM card. They may try to exploit some line of credit like a home equity. So what should you do about this? In terms of best practices, many institutions are not tracking phone fraud today. Are you preserving call recordings of fraud calls and doing some kind of analysis on that? Customers who are tracking this tend to be doing a much better job of defending against it as well. Obviously, you want to put systems in place to detect phone fraud, and Pindrop offers a technique based on our patented phone printing technology. What you want to do is remove the human element from that equation. Finally, you want to improve your authentication practices. And if you have a good fraud detection system in place, you can actually improve your member experience by reducing the amount of interrogation that you have to do for those callers.